call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@EWTN.com.
You know, if we lose connection during any portion of today's program, that's because Rich Jesse has fallen asleep. Rich is playing the role of Superman today. He's wearing his cape and his blue tights, and he's producing just about every program on the network today, as we've got some folks that are indisposed today, so superstar Rich Jesse is filling in for them. Thanks so much for taking a little time out of your day to join us here on EWTN's Open Line Tuesday. Our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, is in the house. If you want to talk to Barbara, the number is 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can send us an email, openline@EWTN.com. You can also send us a text. Text your question for Barbara. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question. Message and data rates may apply. I'm Jack Williams, the aforementioned Rich Jesse, producing the program today. Your call screener, Mr. Matt Gubensky, and our hostess, she is every single Tuesday. She wouldn't bail on us. No. Barbara McGuigan. Barbara, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. How about you?
I'm terrific.
You sound a bit out of breath.
We got a little skeleton crew working today, so
yeah, that's what I heard.
Everybody's got a lot of hats on today. So,
no kidding.
And it's
sounds
kind
like
of,
it.
And we kind of had big heads, so some of the hats are tight, and it's making Rich lose his hair.
That's not good.
Yeah, well, he didn't have much to spare to begin with, so where's my rim shot when I need it? 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Barbara?
Yes.
Our old buddy Bill Donahue.
Yes.
Is, he's amazing.
He is amazing, and I want to save the best news for last.
Okay.
Do you want to start out with giving all but the best news? Do you want to start out with giving the bad news?
Well, I guess I don't know what the best news is.
Oh, okay, so you don't. Okay, do you have it in front of you?
I do.
Okay, well, it's the one we talk about every day, Tuesday.
There have been a couple of Gallup polls taken recently, and Bill Donahue, who those of you who may not know is the president of the Catholic League, and Bill is one of the most staunch supporters of the faith alive and breathing on planet Earth.
Amen.
And he has a little commentary that he has written regarding the results of those particular Gallup polls. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know exactly where you're going with this, so you're probably going to have to lead me.
Okay, that's not a problem. He actually titled it "Morally Challenged Americans." It was disconcerting, of course. I mean, it's sad. We can't be surprised, and I would like to know all the ins and outs of these Gallup polls. For example, whom did they do all of their calling to? You know, how does that work?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I have no problem believing any of these results.
Yeah, I know.
I walk around the streets of our country, and I have no problem believing many of these results.
You know, it's true.
Unfortunately,
it's sad.
Yeah.
Because he said that basically Americans continue to shift to the left. I mean, hello. I mean, you hate to think that, but that's what he's, part of this whole idea, and that basically Judeo-Christian values wouldn't mean too much to these people anymore, to many Americans. And what it was called, the Gallup polling data was called the Values and Beliefs Poll. So, of course, I was really interested to see what the deal was. So he started out by saying that Americans believe the following are morally acceptable, okay? So, I mean, we could have listed this as well. Birth control, okay, is morally acceptable, 91%. What got me, though, this includes many forms of birth control. And many forms of birth control, if not most forms of birth control, are abortifacient. So that includes that they're okay with that if they know they're okay with that. And it also ensures that abortion clinics will be very busy for years to come, dispensing with the unwanted children that survive the chemical playground, which I'm referring to all the methods of birth control that are chemically, their activity is chemical. So the contraceptive mentality, that means, is alive and well, but not just accepted, it is overwhelmingly common and even celebrated, which you hear us talk about that pretty much all the time. Okay, gay or lesbian relations are 63% of Americans believe that is morally acceptable. Sex between an unmarried man and woman is 69%. Say it is morally acceptable. Sex between teenagers, 36%, and that goes down a little bit, which I guess that's a good thing. At least it's lower. Pornography, 36%. Polygamy, 17%. Extramarital affairs goes way down, but it used to be lower. It used to be 7%. Now it's 9% believe that extramarital affairs are morally acceptable. And this all happened, these findings were posted on May 11th, so just a few weeks ago. But here's the thing that, the whole idea that 62% of Americans say that it's morally acceptable to have children outside of marriage, and they all love reproductive technology, and now they're assisting single parents and fulfilling their dream of parenthood, regardless if that child would be better off with the mom or dad. This is absolutely not a consideration. I want to say moral mutants. He puts it politely. He says morally challenged Americans. What has happened? What has happened? It's like children can be brought into the world at all costs and removed from existence at all costs. If these parents decide, because they believe children are a commodity, that people can possess them or discard them whenever they want to. That's basically what it all comes down to. Divorce, too, managed to hit an all-time high in Gallup's new poll. 73% of Americans think that divorce is morally acceptable. And keep in mind, this doesn't just refer to divorce in extreme circumstances. Sometimes that can't be helped. This is no-fault divorce. The idea that marriage it doesn't have to be a lifelong commitment, but it's simply a relationship that will last until either the husband or the wife walks, grows tired of the arrangement, and moves on. And then let's talk about gay marriage a minute, saying that it is 69% saying that it is morally acceptable. It's stunning to think that in 2004, just in 2004, right? The United States was being swept with waves of voters demanding state laws reaffirming marriage. They wanted to vote that marriage was a sacred covenant between one man and one woman. Well, this isn't the case anymore. This is no longer the case. So, who do we thank for that? Well, I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon. The media, the entertainment industry, the internet pornography, it began this whole cultural revolution. And how many politicians accepted as well? They finished it off. So here's another thing that I thought. Support for pornography is creeping up at a slower pace, though, with only 36% saying that pornography use was morally acceptable. But then you have to consider that over 80% of men and nearly half of women are consuming pornography every single month. So it was pretty clear to me that moral disapproval is not proving to be a tough enough deterrent. I mean, it's unbelievable, and therein lies the addiction factor, I guess you would say, Jack, because if 36% say it's morally acceptable, but then you have over 80% of men and nearly half of women, I mean, that's the addiction. It's a porn-hooked culture. But there's one beautiful statistic amidst the depravity. Do you know what that is, Jack?
I do.
43% of Americans are saying that the procedure is morally acceptable. In other words, support for abortion has only changed 1% since 2001. Only 43% of Americans are saying that the procedure is morally acceptable. That's really great. That is really great. And what can this be attributed to? Well, I would like to say to the massive educational efforts put on by every pro-lifer, even in your own sphere of influence, we are trying to educate. Formation. The operative word in real estate is what? Location. But when you consider that, what the formation becomes when you want your children to grow in virtue and grace, we have succeeded. We are succeeding, put it that way. It's not over yet. In those educational efforts that the pro-life movement has been all about. And then you get people like David Daleiden, who has exposed so much of just the scuzzy, skanky stuff that abortion is and does. And then you look at the street activists, those who are willing to hold up their signs, those who are willing to put themselves out there and show what abortion looks like. Just like in the Holocaust, people had to show what the Holocaust looked like. So, anyway, I was absolutely thrilled with this, even though the rest is very, very sad. It's very, very sad. But I'm thrilled with that particular statistic.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday. The number's 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with our very own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
Christ is the answer with Father John Riccardo.
John 14. This is Jesus in the upper room with the disciples before he's going out to his sacrifice of himself for our salvation. And Philip says to the Lord, "Show us the Father, and we'll be satisfied." And Jesus looks at Philip and says, "Philip, have I been with you all this time? Don't you understand? When you see me, you're looking at the Father." In fact, only two people throughout human history have given rise to the question, not who is he, but what is he? The two people are Buddha and Jesus. Buddha's answer was, don't come to me, don't look to me, look to my doctrine, look to what I teach. Jesus' answer was, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart. Jesus is explicitly claiming to be God.
Listen to EWTN Radio day or night. Audio on demand brings you your favorite EWTN programs, prayers, and devotionals instantly to you for free. Visit EWTNapps.com and get started today.
Welcome to EWTN's Catholic Almanac.
It's May 23rd, and St. John Baptiste de Rossi died on this day in 1764. St. John loved to catechize among the laborers, traveling from farm to farm. His preaching inspired his listeners to come to him to confess their sins. Also today, the Church honors St. Ivo of Chartres. He was a counselor to King Philip I of France, whom he criticized for divorcing and then remarrying. For this, he was imprisoned for several years.
This is Father Joseph Mary.
This is Dr. Ray Guarendi, host of The Doctor Is In.
Hello, this is Bishop Mike Siss from the Diocese of San Angelo, Texas. Thank you for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. We're discussing the results of a couple of recent Gallup polls that have been published in the not-too-distant past. Barbara, you ready to go to the phones?
Absolutely.
Our first caller today is David. He's in Houston, Texas, listening to EWTN on Guadalupe Radio. David, how are things in the Republic today?
Hi, David.
Fine. How you doing?
In the Republic, I love it. So how's it going, good man?
Texas.
Yes,
I wanted to talk a little bit about how the data was collected, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes, good. Tell me.
I think part of the problem is, do the people who were participating in this poll, are they even aware of the definition of morals? Is it morally right to do this or to do that?
Yep.
If they're unaware of the dictionary definition of morals, then it's likely that the answer that they provided to the polls are very incorrect.
Well, I guess, yes, you are absolutely right. If they really are going to consider the true definition of the word, which is what I was saying, moral mutants, really, they really don't know. I think it's just what they approve of. They find it acceptable.
Right.
They find it acceptable.
Right.
They don't really connect it up with morals.
If they would have phrased the question differently.
Yes.
As opposed to, do you think it's morally acceptable? Because if they ask it that way, then they're trying to solicit an answer that is trying to prove that religion and faith is less relevant now than it had ever been.
You're so
but
right.
If they ask the question, do you approve or disapprove, and leave religion and faith out of the question, then you're likely to get different answers.
That could be true.
They're trying to do it. I think they're asking the question this way so that they can disprove religion and faith.
Yeah, well, they always have. It seems like there's a backstory with them. They have different motives than we would hope they would have.
Right.
But I want to ask you about this. What you think about this? Bill Donahue was saying he kind of gave an analogy that we don't have a problem. He said stigmatizing smokers. And as a result, fewer are smoking today than was true a half century ago when smoking was socially acceptable. So he's talking about wanting to reduce out-of-wedlock births, and he feels like that we should get back to that stigmatizing. He said it's our immaturity that accounts for our morally challenged condition, which I totally agree with. As long as we reject the stick of stigma, he said, to curb conditions that we deplore, there will be little progress in stemming them. But you know what, David, stigmatizing would be a hate crime in this culture. It would be considered shaming, right? It would be microaggression, offending someone deeply because this is their view. Do you think this would even work?
Well, I think you'd first have to start with the culture war, because popular society and popular culture and society already believe so much of what they see on TV and in movies and in music videos. So it's culturally acceptable to believe in these things because everybody else is doing it.
Yes.
But
if you try to stigmatize it within the culture, like they did with smoking, I just can't imagine it would fly.
Well, I don't think so either, because the culture has shifted so much to the left.
Oh, goodness,
because of that. But I think the pendulum swings both ways. At some point it'll swing to the left, and then it'll go towards the middle, and then it'll swing to the right. And we don't know that we'll be alive when it swings in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But I believe that everything starts at home, and if you have parents that are unable to evangelize and catechize their own children because they are unaware of their own faith, they're going to grow up with an empty slate that someone else will fill in for them. Because if they ask mom and dad a question and mom and dad are unable to answer it, but don't provide, in other words, if the child says, "Why do we go to church every Sunday, Mommy?" and if Mommy doesn't know how to answer that question, then he's got an empty slate. But if he says, "That's a good question. Why don't we go to church and talk to the priest so he can explain it to us so both of us could understand?"
You're so right. I mean, it's evangelization that is so necessary.
But eventually, if the parents are unable to answer questions like these, then that slate will be filled by someone else. Little Johnny down the street, little Susie down the street, Professor XYZ at college who has his own agenda.
Yep. That's exactly right.
So, we can start with popular culture, but I think what we need to do is start at home.
Yeah, I so agree. I completely agree with you. And then reach out to the culture.
Yeah, and I think it needs to be a part of marriage preparation classes.
Oh, absolutely.
How are you going to raise your children? How are you going to answer these questions? Because if you don't start there, most people won't know that that's something that's important to them.
Yeah, it is so very true. And there's another thing in the May 22nd poll that they said 81% of the public says the state of moral values is only fair or poor. You know, is the state of moral values, is it getting worse? And according to 77% of the public, they said yes, the state of moral values is getting worse. But here's the thing,
But yet they answer in the affirmative to these questions. Is it morally acceptable?
Exactly. I mean, it's really a sad state of affairs. This is Tom Donahue. That used to be my good friend, Bill Donahue. Americans are increasingly non-judgmental about sexual relations between consenting adults, but they are not happy with the state of moral values. When so many people become satisfied with the playpen, which is really the pig pen, of course they're going to be non-judgmental. This is what's going to happen. They will be non-judgmental about sexual relations. I mean, that's a given. That's an absolute given. But I also was thinking on this too, David, that Bill said that liberals are the most morally confused of any segment of the population. They are delighted that their, quote, tolerant views on sexuality have caught on with most Americans, but they are nonetheless unhappy with the state of moral values. So how can you have it both ways? You can't. You can't. If you have liberal attitudes on sexuality, you won't have less moral problems. You're going to have more moral problems. So this is where what you hear me saying all the time, if you can't face the reality, and we all need to do this, if we can't face the reality of our sins, and we live in a nation then that honors sins, makes laws protecting sins, I mean, you're going down. I mean, this boat is going to sink. I mean, like one of our bishops in California here who is since deceased, he said, America's on a bullet train to hell. So we need more people to be able to stand up and say, hey, the truth is so beautiful. God's ways are beautiful. You will be happy. You will not be lamenting the last relationship you had, or the one before that, or the one before that. It's something that we have to speak out about. Right, David?
Well, I think also, too, people, like you say, don't want to be judgmental, but even people within the church feel that they should not be judgmental. And if you look at John chapter 7, verse 24, do not judge by appearances, but judge with the right judgment.
Right.
And then if you skip to Matthew chapter 18, go tell him that it is his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or more along with you, that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he still refuses, tell it to the church. If he refuses to listen even then, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. So a lot of people within the church are under the impression that we're not to judge at all, that we shouldn't.
I know. How did that happen?
Within the church, we are to judge, and we should try to bring them around, and we should do our very best to articulate the situation to him in a way that that person understands that they could be wrong, and so that they start thinking about it. At least we want to start the conversation so that they change their thoughts and attitude about any given subject. It may be to them morally acceptable, but in reality, it is not.
Well, but I think people are confused about judgment. We're not judging. We are never to judge a person's soul or a person's motives. We are to judge actions. That's the secret right there.
Right.
I want to refer people to Father Tad Paholchek's brand new article. That's the you can pull this up on the ncbcenter.org, ncbcenter.org. It's called "I'm Not Intrinsically Disordered." Now, I just heard Father Barron say not too long ago, he said if anyone goes around saying to an active homosexual, you are intrinsically disordered, he said these people that say this are intrinsically disordered themselves, really, because it is not they who are intrinsically disordered. It is their inclinations that are intrinsically disordered. Their actions, the inclinations don't define them because they are children of God. But that is what is disordered that has to be worked on. And we all are sinners. We all have something to work on. David, thanks for the call. We have to go now, but thanks for the call. God bless you, good man.
1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with our own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
All people are called to communion with Christ in the church that he founded.
People really gravitate to David Anders and his concern for the callers. That's not just talk. He really means it.
Tom and I are both converts. We've walked that path, and we try to walk it with the listeners at whatever stage of the journey they're on.
It's EWTN's first weekly radio to TV talk show. Call to Communion with Dr. David Anders. Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Television.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just finished interviewing Gregor Gorny and Janos Rozsakon on their book Fatima Mysteries, published by Ignatius Press. Gregor, tell me what this book is about.
This is the book about the Fatima's apparitions. These apparitions were the most important private revelations in the whole the history of the church. Mm-hmm. No others private revelations has seen as such elaborate interpretations by the Holy See. That message from Fatima has changed the course of the history.
And again, it's Fatima Mysteries, Mary's Message to the Modern Age. They're wonderful books, beautifully illustrated, and check it out at EWTNRC.com. I'm Doug Keck, and this has been an EWTN Bookmark Brief. Look for the entire interview coming soon to Bookmark. Thanks.
If you're currently an EWTN media missionary or just interested in becoming one, we've got some great news. EWTN Media Missionaries has a new and improved website. EWTNmissionaries.com, designed with you in mind. Our new site is loaded with great features and it's easy to navigate. There are so many different ways that you can help EWTN. Join us in sharing the eternal word with the world. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. If you'd like to talk to our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, that's your ticket. 1-800-585-9396. Human life is not sacred just here in the United States. It's sacred everywhere. So if you're outside North America, you can give us a call at 1-205-271-2985. We'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. You can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com, or you can text your question to Barbara. Text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Text your first name and your question message, and data rates may apply. Next up is Larry. He's in Detroit, Michigan, listening to EWTN on Ave Maria Radio. Larry, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Larry.
Hi.
Hello?
We're just hear you talking about that no one is intrinsically disordered. And I totally agree, and I'm just wondering how that matches up with the concept that babies need to be baptized. If they're not intrinsically disordered, why is that required?
Well, because, and that's a good question, Larry, because baptism wipes out the original sin, but we still have the consequences of the original sin, the concupiscence, that is that strong desire not only to do what is good, but to do what is evil as well. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with that, and that is where therein lies the intrinsic disorder. But it's sad because many people would look at, for example, as the example I gave, a homosexual person himself as intrinsically evil. He is a child of God. He is a temple of the Holy Spirit. But because of the inclination, the concupiscence, therein lies the problem. Does that make sense?
Well, but babies have no intention or they don't have that decision-making ability.
Well, you're right, but because of Adam and Eve, right, that was all transmitted to us from the sin in the garden, okay, that we will say, I not only know what is right and wrong, but I will decide what is right and wrong, and therein lies that radical individualism that creeps up. Eventually, that baby is going to become aware of the fact of what is right and wrong. Hopefully. So, Jack, do you have anything to add to this?
No. I'm
okay.
I'm not a theologian. I don't play one on TV, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
I don't profess to be one either, but I mean that's just our catechism, right? Yeah. So anyway, sure.
But we can just share what the catechism says, that in paragraph 1250, born with a fallen human nature and tainted by original sin, children also have the need of the new birth in baptism to be freed from the power of darkness and brought into the realm of the freedom of the children of God, to which all men are called. The sheer gratuitousness of baptism, of the baptism of salvation, of the grace of salvation, rather, is particularly manifest in infant baptism. The church and the parents would deny a child the priceless grace of becoming a child of God, were they not to confer baptism shortly after birth.
There you go, a temple of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, Jack. That's good.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. That's the number Julia used. She's in Columbus, Ohio, listening on St. Gabriel Radio. Julia, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Julia.
Oh, hello. Thanks for having your program. I enjoy it very much.
Praise God. Praise God.
Okay, my comment is about what I heard a few minutes ago about the change and switcheroo of the judgmental thing, that now we're judgmental if we don't like what's wrong. And what I'm trying to say is back in the 1980s, my kids were in school, and they come home telling me that the teachers told them, don't believe your parents, they don't know anything, we'll tell you how it is. And then they would put out their issue of do whatever you want. Your parents don't know what they're talking about, et cetera, et cetera. And so nowadays, and then when they were teenagers, they finally told me, well, Mother, you're just judgmental if I would say, do this is right and that's wrong.
Right. It's too bad, isn't it, Julia? Because it causes such discord in the family. I've had it in my own, and it's just so hard to confront on a parent, wouldn't you say? It made you feel terrible, didn't it? I mean, that they wouldn't see the wisdom in what you were trying to bring to them. I mean, you can't force them to believe anything. God doesn't even force us to believe anything, but it's just you try to present the truth.
See, our young people have been trained at school.
Yep.
And what this means, the turning around the meaning of what judgment or judgmental is.
Yes, and, exactly. Now it's become a hate crime, right? It's a hate crime. We make judgments all day long. We decide right from wrong all day long. And now that's called a hate crime. So it's sad.
Here's one thing you have to do about judgment. I told my kids it depends on what you think about judgment. What is judgment? Okay, when I go to the street, I look both ways and I judge. Is it safe for me to cross the street? And I don't. There's all kinds of things I judge to say, will this hurt me or is it good for me,
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, we're in a mess. We're in a big mess here. And I'm afraid that if we don't really step up the evangelization efforts and just teaching the truth about who the human person is, the dignity and the respect that must be shown to the human person, and then bring that truth all the way down to the unborn baby who is a human person, right? This caused people, only 43%, to say that they support abortion. They find it morally acceptable. That means 57% do not find it morally acceptable. This is a good win. It's not good enough, but it's a good win. So, Julia, where did you get all your good formation, dear heart?
Well, I was born and raised a Catholic, and back when I was going to school, we said the Our Father as a prayer to start the day and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, God was acceptable in our public school when I started. Later, I went to Catholic school and so on, but my parents were, strong to do right or avoid the wrong and stuff like that.
Right. And so were mine. And we had Latin Mass Monday through Friday every day at 8 o'clock from the time I was in the first grade. So, I mean, it makes a difference. It so makes a difference. Formation. And it has to begin, as our former caller said, in the family. In the family. So, well, God bless you, dear heart. Thank you so much for calling in today.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Got a couple lines open for you at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. And Barbara Lane in Omaha, Nebraska is listening, and he's wanted to say thanks you for giving him something to break up the monotony of his IT class. So you're disturbing the education of America, just so you know.
Listen, I know it's just not. It's not always hard to hear the things that we talk about on Tuesday. It's not easy to hear, rather, and but it's the truth. The truth will set you free. It doesn't always make you a lot of friends, but it will definitely set you free. I mean, that's the way it goes. And this made me think, Jack, when I was studying this poll, the two polls, Cardinal Sarah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Robert Sarah is incredible. My prayer is always that the Holy Spirit will bless the church with Cardinal Sarah as our next pope. I mean, really, he is quite incredible. The book that I read, God or Nothing, I ask everyone to please get this book, God or Nothing. I'll bet you any amount of money that EWTN carries this book, religious catalog. It is an incredible book. And I thought about the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast last year, May 18th, 2016, where he slammed gender ideology, same-sex marriage, transgender bathroom policies. He described all of them as demonic attacks on humanity. And I was thinking about the fact, because I remembered when he was talking about how today, he said, we are witnessing the next stage and the consummation of the efforts to build a utopian paradise on earth without God. And he said this effort is in the stage of denying sin and the fall altogether. And he said its fruits are the suppression of goodness, the suppression of beauty, the suppression of truth, and the suppression of love. Good becomes evil, beauty is ugly, love becomes the satisfaction of sexual primal instincts, reduced to that. Those are my words. And he said truths are all relative. Everything's the same. There's no right order. If you believe it's true, then honey, it's true. Well, that is absolutely a demonic way to think. And he came right out there and said it. So he said that we're trying the battle to preserve the roots of mankind is perhaps the greatest challenge our world has faced since its origins. And Jack, do you ever wonder why God designed from all eternity and through all eternity that we would be living in this day and age when the greatest challenge the world has faced since it began is the battle to preserve the roots of mankind? Why do you think we were born, Jack?
I have no idea, Barbara.
You do. Because you are doing what you do. If you didn't care about what's going on in this world today, you would not be working as hard as you do for EWTN. I would not be working as hard as I do for EWTN and on the speaking circuit. So, I mean, it's so necessary that you get into the loop of this, that we understand this. Necessary first for your own sphere of influence, as I mentioned earlier, for your own family, your own children. You gotta start young. They have to be little dinky kids when you start about the sanctity of human life and what degrades human life, what attacks human life. We have to know this. I was asked just recently by the producer here to talk about what book I mentioned of Cardinal Robert Sarah, S-A-R-A-H. It is called God or Nothing. God or Nothing. Honestly, Jack, it's one of the best books I've ever read. And it's not just a sing-songy, easy book to read either. You know, I had to read some of those paragraphs over a few times. But it is beautiful. Oh my goodness, he is something. I just cannot get over the man, and I love how he is so carefree about proclaiming the truth. And that's what he said. Do not be afraid, just like John Paul. Do not be afraid to proclaim the truth with love, especially about marriage according to God's plans. No, you're not going to be popular in some circles. You will be very unpopular in some circles. Do it anyway, because you're doing it for God. You're doing it for God first. You're doing it for the Lord and giver of life. So, I mean, this is something that I feel so strongly about. And like he said, the rupture of the foundational relationships of someone's life, and he names it, through separation, through divorce, or distorted impositions of the family, such as cohabitation or same-sex unions. You know what he called it? A deep wound that closes the heart to self-giving love unto death, and even leads to cynicism and despair. A deep wound, these things. And this is what we're dealing with now. I mean, and I love how in part where he said that these situations cause damage to the little children through inflicting upon them a deep as existential doubt about love. They are a scandal, he said, a stumbling block that prevent the most vulnerable, our little children, from believing in such love, and a crushing burden. Honestly, Jack, this speech he gave, this is last year, the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. Just look it up. May 18th, 2016. A crushing burden that can prevent them from opening to the healing power of the gospel. There it is right there. The noble art of being formed in the faith, in truth, in everything that's beautiful and good. The gospel. Okay? That is what opens one to the healing power of the gospel. They are being formed in the faith. How can we say it enough? How important it is to start young with these little kids and form them in truth and beauty and goodness about the human person. And then no matter who comes up with something against it, they know better because they have the deep roots of mankind. They have been preserved in their families. I'm getting on my soapbox here. Sorry, Jack. But it's so important.
In order to form others, we have to first form ourselves.
Amen.
And one way to do that is to make sure we have a good perspective on the issues that are happening in our culture. And one way to get a good spin on that is the Catholic News Agency. CNA is the only fast, reliable, and free Catholic news source that brings blogs, stories, opinions, and more to your fingertips. For the latest Catholic news, visit CatholicNewsAgency.com. It's an online service from EWTN News. We've still got plenty of time for your phone calls and a couple lines open at 1-800-585-9396, toll-free anywhere in North America. Olivia texts a question to you, Barbara. She said, even churches with good programs are still silent from the pulpit about all of these issues. What responsibilities do our priests and deacons have for the people's continued ignorance and rebellion?
A big one. They have a big responsibility. When there is something heretical going down, they have to call it what it is, name it, tell it. It is heresy. And this is what you just heard me. I was quoting Cardinal Sarah. This is a cardinal of the church, a prince of the church. And he's calling it out as it is. And then we have to do that as well. And possibly, I mean, I know, I'm not criticizing our clergy. The job is very, very difficult. The vocation is difficult. But possibly we have to give them information. They can't see everything. They can't know everything all the time. And then we have to build upon that and, feed them with what things could be said from the pulpit, or feed them Cardinal Sarah. My goodness, buy the book, God or Nothing. And now he has a new book out. They're printed by Ignatius, published by Ignatius Press. I'm going to have Father Fessio on pretty soon here. But it's called Silence. We are so distracted anymore. Now, I've got my trusty producer bringing up EWTN Religious Catalog. Okay, here's God or Nothing, I'm assuming. I don't think that Silence has been released yet. But God or Nothing by Cardinal Robert Sarah, Sarah. It's number 40509. Number 40509. Yes, it's God or Nothing. Because he will come out, and this is what we need to hear from the pulpit. And no, you won't be always happy, possibly, if you are believing that these other things are true and good. But at least he's more concerned about your soul than your fleeting happiness. He's concerned about your soul. And so, the thing is, this is why it's so important. As Cardinal Sarah says, he said, the advent of artificial reproductive technologies, surrogacy, so-called homosexual marriage, and other evils of gender ideology will inflict even more wounds in the midst of generations we live with. That is why it is so important to fight to protect the family. The first cell of the life of the church and every society. He said it's not about abstract ideas. It's not an ideological war between competing ideas. This is about defending ourselves, our kids, and future generations from a demonic ideology that says children do not need mothers and fathers. It denies human nature and wants to cut off entire generations from God. This is why we are created now. This is why we do what we do on Catholic radio. This is why we are created right now. Because God wanted people who would stand up, who would pony up and speak the truth boldly, but always with charity.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. 1-800-585-9396. And our clergy do have a responsibility, to be sure, to tackle the issues of the day. But also, I would remind people that, first of all, you need to pay attention, because I have heard folks complain about pastors not addressing issues after homilies where they addressed the issue.
Yes. Yeah, you're right, Jack. You're right.
In the context of the scriptures of the day.
Yep.
And it's important that we encourage those priests when they do that, and let them know that it builds us up and that it encourages us.
That's so true. And, they will come to know. Look at St. John Vianney. He used to go up to the pulpit and cry because his parish was so bad. They were always carousing and drinking and doing all these things. And he would cry and say, I'm worried about your souls. You're going to, just like the bishop from L.A. said at one time, you're on a bullet train to hell, folks. You better step it up. And Lord knows, these are very precarious days that we live in. Someone was saying to me, oh, I'm so sorry you didn't get whatever it was I was talking about. I said, oh my goodness, don't be sorry for that. We've got nuclear subs on the coast of North Korea. Our time might be very short. Who knows? But I mean, it might be very short.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Michael's in Ann Arbor, Michigan, listening to EWTN on Sirius XM Channel 130. Michael, how are things in God's country today?
Oh, very well. Well, we do have a problem, though.
Hi, Michael.
It's the hello. It's the summer season, and our summer festival is coming up. And this Sunday, the priest was talking about the poker tent and the beer tent, and that's what we should all come out and imbibe all weekend because we all need to blow off steam. We tried saying, hey, we're having to hire security because of the drunken fights.
Oh,
we were
really?
Of course.
Good
Often
night, nurse.
policemen have to do it. And we were told it's our heritage. Irish Catholic drinking. And I'm just like, and here's the thing, we're going to go to another church, we think, because there's a evangelical Christian one a couple miles away that have a very family-friendly one that is very nice. And there's no fights. It's all sorts of things for the kids. They have probably 7 to 8 times the attendance. We're losing people left and right, and I'm afraid they're going to lose 4 more. I just don't know what to do in these circumstances anymore.
Why don't you bring it up, Michael? Why don't you bring it up? We're down to a couple minutes left.
We did.
And what did he say?
Blesses the wine every year, and they all drink, and everyone plays poker.
Okay, well, if you're not drinking to excess at a festival, that would be permissive. You have to.
We understand that, but it's not that. It is that. It's when you have to hire off-duty policemen to monitor the fights. And this isn't just a one-time thing.
Not good.
This has been years and years coming, where people from outside come in, people from inside come in. When you see people higher up in the church just drinking and doing whatever.
Well, it's bad example. Go ahead,
when the
Jack.
bishop comes by and laughs about it all, we're going to go to another church, we think.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, Michael. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't give up the body, blood, soul, and divinity. But you know what? Even if that priest is joking about these things, which is really not a very good example, if that's what he was intending to be, when he stands at that altar and consecrates that host, he is in persona Christi. He is taking the place of Christ himself. So he is at least doing the greatest thing that could ever be given to us, the bread of life. So I know it's difficult. No one's perfect. But I wouldn't trade the body, blood, soul, and divinity food for our body, blood, soul, and humanity. I wouldn't trade that because the evangelicals have a bigger attendance because of their great band.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, Michael, if you're not getting any satisfaction from the priest on that, and I know you said the bishop's been there, but I would make an appointment with Bishop Boyer and see what he has to say about it.
And go somewhere else. Or go somewhere else. Go to another church. You've got, what's that great
Many
priest
parishes.
there?
Yeah.
Oh, my
Father
goodness.
John Ricardo in the Detroit
Father
area.
Ricardo. That's what I couldn't pull up his last name. Yeah, go see Father Ricardo, Michael. That would be a good place to start. He's awesome.
On behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, producer Rich Jesse, and our call screener, Matt Kubensky, I'm Jack Williams. Thanks so much for taking a little time out of your Tuesday to join us here on Open Line. Back at it tomorrow with Father Mitch. Until then, God bless.